We're here today to speak with one of the contributors to our new book, How to Heal Our Divides. Shane Claiborne is a prominent speaker, activist, and best-selling author. Shane worked with Mother Teresa in Calcutta and founded The Simple Way in Philadelphia. He heads up Red Letter Christians, a movement of folks who are committed to living as if Jesus meant the things he said. Shane is a champion for grace, which has led him to jail activating for the homeless and to places like Iraq and Afghanistan to stand against war. Now grace fuels his passion to end the death penalty and help stop gun violence. Shane's books include Jesus for President, Red Letter Revolution, Common Prayer, Follow Me to Freedom, Jesus Bombs and Ice Cream, Becoming the Answer to Our Prayers, Executing Grace, The Irresistible Revolution, and Beating Guns. He's been featured in a number of films, including Another World is Possible and Ordinary Radicals. So Shane, it's so wonderful to have you participate in this project. This is such a wonderful collaboration that we pulled together here.
Yeah, man, it's good to be with you. And I am pumped about this whole project, the book, and even beyond the book, the kind of web of friendships and bright lights in the world that we kind of highlight in the book. So it's wonderful. And I always like working with you because you're such a collaborator. And, one of the things I really have found to be true is that we're so much stronger together than on our own, and so we're.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you and I have a lot of common, on those fronts. There's no question about that. You're a great collaborator and networker, and you've been involved in so many different things with so many wonderful people that, it's just an honor for me to, get involved with you on this.
Yeah, man. Well, you pulled together a great group. It's a wonderful harmony, as we say at Red Letter Christians, harmonizing without homogenizing. There's a distinctiveness in each of the chapters and all the different authors, but there's also this beautiful harmony of, trying to heal some of those divisions.
So, you're always a busy guy and involved in tons of things. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of what your latest projects are outside of this one?
Well, I don't look too busy in my lazy boy here. I'm in Tennessee. I just fed the cows. I'm house sitting for my parents for a little bit and trying to write a book and do a few things here. But I literally just fed the cows, and you might be able to see out my window here. It's just stunningly beautiful. Got the Smoky Mountains out there. And,
it is beautiful.
So this is where I grew up, and I'm here. Katie and I are doing something a little different this year. We're after 25 years in Philly, we're spending this year with our biological families down in North Carolina and Tennessee, living on our little solar powered school bus. And so I'm back and forth to Philly, and still doing a lot of the work we've been doing with guns. We've got our blacksmithing shop here, so I think there might be people able to see some of this, but others might be listening. But, we've been turning guns into garden tools. And I wrote a little bit about this in my chapter.
Yes.
So I've got a pile of guns out here that I'm working on that were donated, and got my garden tools that we're making. That's a little, I think this was actually an assault rifle. And then I've been making these crosses too out of the barrel of the gun.
Those look nice.
Yeah, man, I have to get you one of those. But yeah, that's what I've been doing that. And, part of why I've found that really powerful is it's so visceral and concrete, so it's nice to do something like that, especially in the pandemic, to get out and beat the crud out of a piece of gunmetal and transform it into something else. So Katie's a blacksmith. I'm a blacksmith now, or an aspiring blacksmith. So yeah. But writing a book on life right now about the kind of sanctity of life and trying to connect the dots a little bit, so these don't just feel like single issues, abortion or gun violence or the death penalty, but that we have a more robust and, all-encompassing ethic of life.
Very cool. Well, we'll look forward to seeing that new book for sure. But you also, I know, got a webinar coming up with Vote Common Good, and those folks and us both, are all collaborating together on multiple dimensions. So that's exciting.
Yeah, well, we're doing a lot to address this kind of white Christian nationalism, the I always put the Christian in quotes, but the Christian
Yeah.
nationalism that we saw express itself in such a concrete way on January 6th. But there's all kinds of conditions and theology that has led to this. So that's what we're talking about tonight. And I'm really convinced that one of uh, the biggest dangers right now in our country is this sort of nationalism that's trying to camouflage itself as Christianity. And it's turning a lot of people off, so that's what we've been saying is what happened on January 6th wasn't just anti-democratic, but it was also anti-Christian, and a lot of people reject that and think that if that's what Christianity looks like, I want nothing to do with it, so there's a lot at stake right now. So yeah, I'm
And the whole January 6th thing was just a culmination of, quite frankly, years or centuries, of that. I mean, I'll use the word evil,
yeah.
it's been festering within our society.
Yeah, I mean, it was evil. People died that day, and many more could have. Folks, I think were really threatened with their lives, and then they once these insurrectionists get into the Senate chamber, they kneel on their knees, and they pray in the name of Jesus. So yeah, there's a real. It's so important to name it as an evil and also as a heresy. A kind of twisted, perverted, distorted version of our faith. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, back to, the red letters, I don't see any red letters that Jesus told to do things like that.
Yeah, I guess people misconstrue some of the table flipping, but I heard this one Trump supporter say, that he was rethinking things. He said, "I've been flipping tables, but I just was flipping the wrong tables," But I also think that, Jesus uh, was it's balancing this like fire of God's love and even the holy anger that drove him to flip the tables in the temple, but how to have that with a love and compassion with which he wept over Jerusalem because they didn't know the things that would lead to peace. So I think that's all. But when it comes to like the corrective of this sort of distorted narrative of Christianity, that's what we keep saying at Red Letter Christians is the best anecdote is Jesus. The best critique of what's gone wrong in evangelicalism is Jesus, ironically, because you read the Sermon on the Mount, I find no way to justify violence, and to defend the policies and so much of the rhetoric that's so hurtful to the people Jesus called the least of these.
Really, really. So your chapter in the How to Heal Our Divides book is entitled, It Begins with Humility. So can you talk a little bit about, why you chose that topic and what your article's about?
Yeah, well, I guess for starters, it's pretty clear to me that there are a lot of us that grew up in sort of an oppressive, religious, legalistic environment, fundamentalist environment, that we learned how to exclude and condemn and manipulate people. And the tendency is to use those same tactics just for a different political ideology. And I've come to really see that self-righteousness is not partisan, you know, um, and but it's always uh, poisonous, and Jesus calls it the yeast of the Pharisees. And so in the piece that I wrote, I kind of gave a nod to the story Jesus tells of the two folks that go up to pray, and one of them is the Pharisee that very self-righteously stands up and says, "Thank you that I'm not like those people," and then there's the tax collector who has a very different posture, and it says he can't even lift his head to heaven, and he just beats his chest and says, "God, have mercy on me, a sinner." So I think that's kind of the posture that Jesus invites us to. And I mean, it's very consistent with Jesus's teaching: get the log out of your own eye. His harshest words, like brood of vipers, were not for people on the fringes of the faith, but for people at the center, of the religious elite that had this oppressive kind of religiosity that excluded people. And so, and hurt people. And he says to them, to the religious elite, Jesus says that the tax collectors and the prostitutes are entering the kingdom ahead of you. So the people that you've excluded are entering the kingdom ahead of you. So I love it. I think that's, but we need that everywhere, especially when it comes to, healing these divides. Like, there's that powerful vision for our salvation that says we work out our salvation with fear and trembling, that it's not just about a moment, but a continual shaping of, who God is making us to be. And so I look at who I was 25 years ago, and I'm not sure I would have been very nice to myself sometimes, so I think that's the kind of, but that helps me continually remind myself to have grace and patience with people that disagree with me, because look at how much patience people have shown me for the last 25 years. I've been figuring some of these things out, and I've changed some of the very passionate opinions I held on the death penalty or guns or so many things,
Totally hear you. Have you perceived conversations changing lately?
I don't know. I think that there is a certain there's a new space, it feels like to me, in the sort of post-Trump America, where it's not like every day everybody's reacting to the very reaction worthy things that are being done, but it's like there does feel like a space where we can create something new together. And I love how the activist Valerie Cowers said, she gives this vision of the darkness that we were in. She did this under the Trump administration, but she said, she kind of invites you to think, is this the darkness of the tomb, like America is dying, or is this the darkness of the womb, and something new is being born? And I think it's that invitation, which I kind of feel like we have the possibility to birth something new right now. On so many fronts, when you think about policing, immigration, so many of the things that it feels like we've just had our wheels stuck. Like, hopefully we can have a better conversation. And those culture wars, the like polarizing folks that don't create great spaces for conversation.
Exactly.
I think, are still out there, but there's some new stuff happening. I see it all the time, and some of the work we're doing, having town halls and forums on abortion, and we just have one on immigration and refugees. So I'm really hopeful. And our concerns are not partisan, depending on whoever's in the White House. I mean, our concerns on refugees right now are that right now, unless something changes, Biden will welcome less refugees than under Trump. So we've really got to keep pushing. It's not like we're in the clear. We can all rest now.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So what suggestion do you have for people to get involved, either with, the work that you're doing or the other, great organizations that we feature in the How to Heal Our Divides book?
Yeah, well, we need each other, right? So I think that these organizations, like what you're doing, all the collaborative work you're doing, the work of that we're trying to do at Red Letter Christians, is we have a whole section of our website. I mean, actually, most of our website, we say, is just a web of subversive friends, and so we've got organizations that we're working with, like you, and we've got leaders, national leaders, speakers, writers, we got musicians. So we're trying to create that movement, and one of the things that Reverend William Barber says, who we've done so much together, he says the way that we're going to change the narrative is by changing the narrators. And that's what this book has been about too, right? Is having folks that are telling a different story, or that have a unique angle, that they're trying to approach things. It's not just some of kind of the polarizing culture wars that we get stuck in. So so I think joining what we're doing at Red Letter Christians, we've got a bunch of things happening every month, and we need to be in the streets. I think we those of us that are safe to get out now, we've got to start using our voices for change and building movement on the ground. I always feel like I need to be anchored in a real community too. So I write a little bit about the Simple Way and some of the work that we've done in Philadelphia in the chapter that I contributed. And I think we need imagination. And that's one of the things that I really end my piece with in the book is creative ways to, I like, Brian McLaren, did he contribute?
Oh
He's
yeah,
one of the big
absolutely.
supporters, right? Yeah. So one of the things that Brian says, he's a really great friend. And he says, we can't just protest. We also have to protestify. Right. So not just be known for what we're against, but really to, like Gandhi said, to be the change we want to see. So I think that creativity is, kind of in the DNA of a lot of the work that we're trying to do. I think we need to protest right now. There's plenty to protest, but we also have got to imagine what does it look like to build a safe community? Like, does that include police or not? Does it, how can we do something about gun violence? So like literally transforming guns is one of the ways that we've found to protestify, all things can be made new. A piece of metal that's designed, to kill can be redesigned. And I think people, we've got to have that kind of prophetic imagination that things don't have to be this way. And as Brother Jim Wallace says, we can believe despite the evidence and watch the evidence change. And that's what social movements have done throughout history is, before they happen, everybody says it's impossible. The abolition of slavery, abolition of the death penalty, whatever. And after the social movement, the civil rights movement, everybody looks back and says that's inevitable. But I think that's what it means to be this kind of prophetic voice is that we can't accept the status quo and the way things are. We've got to build the world that we know God dreams of. And so that's really the invitation of this book. And you've got so many people that are doing that in concrete ways. This is not just like theology and,
that was the objective of the book.
intellectual reflection, but it's real, concrete stuff.
Yeah, it's not just
So,
talk. It's not just talk.
Yeah.
It's not just abstract. It's actually organizations that are doing something, to heal these different divides is what we were after. So, I'm just, thankful that there are so many great role models to pull from.
Yeah, I know in a world with so much virtual right now, virtual friends, virtual meetings, I think that we've got to realize that we're not going to change the world by tweeting, but we really do have to. The social media is a great platform. We can use it. We are using it, but we've got to have our feet on the ground, just like Jesus did. Jesus was living in real time and space, and that incarnation, that embodiment, was full of interruptions, someone that was sick or someone their kid had died. And like, we've got to be attentive and really in this time and space in a physical way too.
Well, Shane, thanks so much, for being part of this program and for spending some time with us, both today as well as, all the other events and things that we're doing for this. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Can't wait to get this book out into the world and see all the wonderful changes it makes and the people it inspires. I'm honored to just be one of the cloud of witnesses that you've pulled together, man.
Well, thanks so much.